I just don't understand why she's so livid with me. I really don't. I only read the Daily Mail for the crossword puzzle. I don't know what's got into her. George is beside himself. He just retreats to his study and won't come out again for days. She's giving me the silent treatment. It's ever since she went to university. We had high hopes of Oxford or Cambridge, but no. She decided to go to the Polytechnic down the road. Well, they don't call them that these days, do they? They're the new progressive universities. You know what she's reading, don't you? Sociology. Well, what kind of job is she going to get with that? I've lost track of how many ologies there are these days. Do you know what she said to me? She said, "Mother, you're a racist and a snob." And then she got up from the dining table, flounced off, slammed the door behind her, and I haven't heard from her in a week. I'm heartbroken. George went so red in the face, I thought he was going to have a coronary. All this Brexit stuff, it really is destroying our family. Both Henry and Francesca have both turned against us. Completely. I had hoped their schooling would prepare them for the world, for reality. George always wanted them to go away to school, but I resisted. Perhaps that was a mistake. Perhaps that's where I went wrong. Perhaps that was what was needed to toughen them up a bit, by way of preparation. You know, they're both terribly sensitive. Francesca thinks I've been infected by white ring propaganda. Imagine calling me a racist. I'm not remotely racist. I'm the most open-minded mother around here. I just don't see why she can't see that. I mean, I knew full well what Jemima and her used to get up to when Jemima stayed over. But I didn't bat an eyelid or say a word. Because I too have lived. We all go through these experimental phases, don't we? It's a rite of passage, isn't it? Until you find the right man to settle down with. Oh, I know where all this stems from. I do. It's because the young man she's dating just happens to be brown. And she thinks I don't like him. Well, I don't have a problem at all with the fact that he's brown. I'm certainly not a racist. What I'm not entirely comfortable with is the fact that he's a Muslim. Now, that might not be the most politically correct thing to say, particularly to a lefty, but I can assure you it's based on very sound reasoning. There's cultural differences, isn't it? I mean, they're not like us, are they? They believe different things. Like women can't drive. And Sharia law. I think that's what you call it. But it's in their version of the Bible. It's their religion. They have no choice. I'm just worried about her future. I'm a concerned parent, that's all. I tried to explain to her, I said, Francesca, we live in a Christian country. And if they want to have Muslim as their religion, then they need to live in a Muslim country. It's common sense, isn't it? And she just looked at me and she said, but mother, you don't go to church. I said, darling, that's beside the point. Britain is a Christian country. We celebrate Christmas, the star and the donkey and the presents. Soon we won't even be able to do that, will we? I mean, all this political correctness, it's really gone mad, hasn't it? There are mosques everywhere, and you can't say anything lest you stand accused. I don't know what happened to freedom of speech and traditional British values. Really don't. I've never been particularly religious myself. Nor have I had particularly strong political opinions. And I certainly don't condone violence or thuggery of any form. I just want to defend British values and democracy. And if Boris needs to shut down Parliament in order to defend parliamentary democracy, well then he must do it. He must. Now I know he said made some comments that could at first glance appear to be derogatory about letterboxes or pillar boxes or something. But he's standing up for women's rights, isn't he? I mean, all these feminists, so-called feminists, getting all uppity. Just look at the venom contained within the Me Too campaign. All these allegations about minor indiscretions. But the consequences for the poor men. It makes a mockery of real assault and real rape. I mean rape on the street. Not in the marital bed by your husband. Or after a few drinks or drugs even. Or a hand on your breast at a party. No. I was George's secretary. He used to pounce on me in the lift. I loved it. It didn't do me any harm, did it? On the contrary, got me to where I am today. 2 beautiful children and a lovely home. These young women, they just need to learn to enjoy the attention while it lasts. Because believe me, it doesn't. Men are scared to even go for a girl these days. Let men be men, is what I say. It doesn't serve anybody's interest, men or their women, to make a big fuss, does it? Men are on trial. Henry still hasn't got a girlfriend, but is it any wonder in this kind of climate? I think Boris will understand some of these things and instigate the changes in society that are really needed. I mean, he's a man of calibre and leadership, isn't he? And that other chap, Corbyn, oh, I can't stand the man. He can't even iron his shirts. How does he hope to run a country? You see, the young these days, they're very naive. They haven't seen what we've seen. How a left-wing government can bankrupt a country. It's all very well getting on your high horse about social justice or the climate change. But what about the economy, business, and enterprise? A lot of the people Francesca hangs around with are all into that Extinction Rebellion nonsense. They handcuff themselves to trees and don't wash their hair for weeks. I believe a lot of them suffer from quite serious mental health issues. Ecological anxiety. I blame social media. They work each other up into a frenzy, don't they? I mean, just look at that Greta Thunberg child. Encouraging strikes and school truancy. Now, one mustn't be unkind, particularly about a child with disabilities. But the behaviour she's displaying is very typical of someone with that diagnosis. Susan from next door does a lot of charity work for people with learning disabilities. And a lot of them are very similar. They get obsessed with things, like trains. And if they don't get to see a train, well, they get very upset very quickly and can become really quite difficult to deal with. Susan finds it very endearing. She's a good woman. My heart's in the right place. Francesca likes Susan. At least I think she does. She always used to. I do hope she's going to speak to me soon. I only read the Daily Mail for the crossword puzzle. I mean, that Paul Dacre fellow, I didn't even know who he was. The one that Francesca harps on about. I mean, some of the headlines weren't always in the best possible taste. But the general thrust of it, that is true. The assault on British values. The invasion. It's happening. There was apparently a battalion of them storming the beach at Dover the other day. 12 of them in a dinghy. Well, they call themselves asylum seekers, but they're bound to, aren't they? There were 14 of them at the start of the journey. Well, they will take such risks. All for a council house and free health care. Imagine 12 exhausted, desperate brown people in a dinghy. The people on the south coast must be terrified. Truly. I do think Boris will know what to do about all this. Since he had his hair cut and he became Prime Minister. It's like what he says, isn't it? The future's golden. Flaxen. Blonde.